Well, today we're going to do something a little bit different. So, as you've seen with working on the Cornet and the Super Bee in a few videos, we've been very busy, but we're almost to the point where we're looking towards the next project. And there are still finishing touches to do on the Cornet and the Super Bee, but I want to go through a few options we have as far as project cars that we could get started on or get working on. And what I want you guys to do is give input in the comments. Which of these projects would you like to see get worked on or get done next? So there are a few options that are kind of quick projects, and there are a few options that are more longer term winter projects. And there's no saying that we only do one. We're gonna get to a lot of these over time, but which one do you guys want to see us start with? So I'll start with the inside cars. There's these three here. On the left is our 1970 Cuda, vitamin C orange car, and this needs a extensive amount of welding and rust repair. So that would be the main focus of this car. It needs some roof work up there, needs a few minor floor patches, needs a firewall patch, and a little bit of re-welding across the pinch weld area there, or not pinch weld, spot welds there. And it needs quarter panels put on it, trunk pan, tail panel, and there's trunk lid and doors and all kinds of panels for the car. There's a tail panel for it. So that's what that is. That would be welding, grinding, body work, paint. And the more long-term goal for this car is it's going to go back with its vitamin C orange paint, ideally. It will be getting, as of right now, and plans change, but as of right now, the plan is 444 speed, potentially shaker car. This was just a 318 Barracuda, but it's not going to be when we're done. We're going full Cuda clone, probably a lot of options, definitely stepping a little bit away from stock on the engine choice as far as, you know, just modifications. If we were to do a 440, we'd probably do, you know, bigger cam and headers and a bunch of, you know, just upgraded parts. But we're not there yet. But also we would be within this build doing a full rear end rebuild and setup and a full front K-member rebuild and setup, so there'd be a lot of video content on this. So that's the first option. Next to it is our 1971 Challenger 383 RT shaker car in butterscotch. The only one known to exist in that combination. And this would be a lot of the same kind of stuff. A lot of rust repair, welding, grinding, body work, paint, rebuilding. This needs the lower support here replaced. It needs this inner fender most likely replaced. We need to check, make sure that the car is still square because it did take a little bit of a hit on this inner fender. I could see where it's buckled. And then this front, ideally, we would like to be able to straighten that out. I think we can, but we'll see what happens. And this needs some bodywork panel replacement type of work as well. This needs a full floor and full trunk and probably full quarters. The quarters are actually salvageable as is, but replacing a full quarter versus replacing a quarter skin is, you know, kind of just a preference thing. It's actually, in my opinion, easier to replace a full quarter than it is to replace a quarter skin. My example would be like this car. This quarter is just sitting on here, but the welds are all going to be in here. They're all going to be up here, and they're all going to be in the wheel well and at the tail panel and at the door seam. There's no cutting or welding or grinding in the middle of a panel. There's no blending that's going to be required. Obviously, it's going to need final body work, but there's no blending in the middle of a panel that you have to kind of compensate for. So, that being said, very likely full quarters, but that's to be determined. And this would need full restoration in every category, and this would have to be done at a very, very high level. As I said, it is the only 71 RT 383 shaker in butterscotch known to exist currently. There could be another, but as of right now, that is the only one. I've been through the shaker registry. It's the only one. Also, there's only 249 shaker cars to begin with, so even if that wasn't a factor, it's still a very rare car. And then there's one of the Arizona Roadrunners. This car has been through a lot. This would be this would be some metal work, some body work, kind of a little bit of everything. Again, not to this extent, but again, this would be a little bit of everything. Quarter panel, the rear half of it needs to be replaced, needs to be cut out, welded in, body worked. And there's one spot in the inner wheelhouse here in the trunk that there's a hole that would need to be fixed. And this quarter needs to be body worked and blended and needs quite a bit of work yet too. So that's an option as well. Body work, rough-in body work, welding, a little bit of paint, or at least, primer the back half of the car. And then there's potential idea of stripping the engine bay as best as possible and getting that primed, painted, ready, and putting an engine transmission in it as is. Or maybe it goes a different route. I do actually have a couple people interested in buying this car. Also, if anybody here is interested in buying this car, it is actively for sale. Very solid car, very not rusty car by any means. The floors are perfect. The trunk is very, very nice. And none of the body panels and none of the bolt-on panels have any rust to speak of. So very solid builder, real Roadrunner. So if anybody's interested in something like that, you can email me. My email's in the description, but there's another option. So let's move towards the other side of the shop and look at another option. So update here on the Sunfire car quick. For anybody that knows this car, it is sold. So waiting final payment on that. Deposit's been made. That's in process, so that is sold. That is not an option. And then there's the green Roadrunner that was supposed to be easy, but it is very, very much not going to be nearly as easy as we planned. So, the problems we've encountered with this car so far is they put door skins on this car. They did a decent job, but they screwed them up. This shape at the top here is wrong. I put a fender, an original 1969 fender, on this, and it overlaps and hits in multiple places. So since we found that, we've located new doors for this car. So this will be getting new doors, and the front clip will have to get painted, the doors will have to get painted, and then the rest of the car will have to be all repainted at the same time because there's bodywork issues and there's paint match issues kind of all over this. So again, this would be another bodywork and paint style build. That's kind of the theme of a lot of these, but we're gonna change directions away from that in a minute. But this is a very good car, 383 4-speed car. It'll be going back as a A12 clone, 446 pack, 4-speed. The 4-speed's in the shop right now getting looked at. So we'll see how that goes. This would be Obviously bodywork and paint on the outside, restoring the interior, building an engine and transmission for it, all the mechanical stuff. I mean, the suspension's basically done. The front end's rebuilt, the rear end is rebuilt. The rear end will be changed because we would put a Dana in it instead of the 8 3/4, just to make it as correct as possible. So there's another option, the green Roadrunner. So moving again outside this time, well, kind of outside, into the overhang as we call it, is the next option. Our orange 71 Roadrunner. This would be arguably the quickest, easiest thing to do. This needs rear bumper and tail lights assembled, put back on it, needs some wiring attention, needs door handle mechanics figured out, they're just setting on there, and it needs carburetor work and brake work, so, and interior work. But this one's kind of questionable because it presents as a nice car. It very much is a nice car, but the guy that did the body work on the car must have been half blind, because the car is very nice. It's not very straight though, but it's dark in here. I know you can't see, but it's got a 383 with headers, torquer intake, 509 cam, 750 Demon carburetor. It runs great. I need to do something about the carburetor because I believe I blew a power valve in it because it seems to be dumping a lot of gas down it, so that will need attention, either to be repaired or I will just put a different carburetor on it. And the brakes are leaking from somewhere. I cannot find where. I put new front wheel cylinders on it. I've put a bunch of stuff in the front end of the suspension or brake work done to it, and I cannot figure out where that leak is, so that's going to be a mild challenge, but we'll figure it out. The master cylinder is not leaking. I know a bunch of people tell me, oh well, that's leaking. No, it's not, but we are losing fluid somewhere. If you pump it up, it holds pressure pretty good for a while, but not that long, so that's obviously a problem when it comes to drivability. So there's an option. That's a quicker option. And here is another option. The Butterscotch Roadrunner, Copper Roadrunner, whatever you want to call it. Somebody painted Butterscotch. It's originally this T5 Copper. So this is, again, kind of a complicated car to deal with because there's multiple directions it could go. But my vote for it is clean the engine bay, get it all prepped, prime it, paint it back to the original copper color, and then throw an engine and transmission in it. This is a 383 4-speed car. We have a 383 and a 4-speed that can go in it, and all it would need is I need to fix a couple little spots in the tunnel of the floor because whoever took the console brackets out of the car kind of hacked the tunnel a little bit, so it needs minor floor attention, and I don't know how it happened, but you guys can't see because it's dark, but right above the rear end in that hump between the back seat and the tunnel, or the back seat and the trunk, excuse me, something broke in there on the rear end, I assume, and something flew up, hit the underside of that, and cracked that. So that needs to be pounded back down, tack welded shut. But yeah, that would be my vote for what to do with this car, and leave the body alone for right now. It needs quarters, I know that. It needs trunk extensions, and it needs some outer wheelhouse work. But the doors are solid, the rockers are solid, the fenders are solid, the roof is great. The trunk has no rust, the floor has no rust, the front end has no rust. So very, very buildable, good car, and the interior is actually pretty nice in it. Again, it's dark and you can't see, I know that, but the dash pad has a couple small cracks, but like the lower pad and the glove box door pad aren't even cracked and they look almost like new. Even the door panels are decent, so that would be an option as well. But that's just more a little bit of bodywork and paint under the hood, but mostly mechanical. So that's, you know, putting parts back on the car, assembling the car, and doing some basic wiring and working from there is what that car would end up being. And then moving on to the next thing, not the GTX, not that other Roadrunner, because these cars, well, that car could sell. Anybody wants to buy that, let me know. But that GTX will be coming all the way apart down to a rotisserie and being completely done up. That's future down the road quite a ways. But we could take a short little walk to the last option, and then I will give you guys a quick update on a couple other things. But the last option is this 1969 Super Bee. And again, this is another one that can kind of go a couple different ways. This is a 383 automatic car. No fender tag or anything, so there's no rules or issues to follow a certain pattern here. And it has a inner fender sitting on top of the engine. No, it has a running, supposedly, 383 sitting in it, and a supposedly good 727 transmission attached to the back of it. So very easy to get this one running. You see how nice it is under there. That's very, very nice. I think I have running cars that aren't that nice underneath. But this could be kind of a ratty driver beater, kind of reminiscent of, if you've seen Chris Birdsong's Super Beater. That's kind of the potential idea behind this. Or we could replace that inner fender, replace some stuff here, paint the engine bay, and fully restore this car. But the potential idea is to go with a Super Beater-esque build. Leave the body alone, leave the paint alone. Yeah, it's rusty. Put a fuel cell in it, or just put a gas tank in it, run some lines, because the floor is pretty solid in it, so why not? Why not, for a relatively low budget, get this thing to run and drive, move under its own power, and have just a little beater thing out of it. So that's another idea that would be strictly mechanical. No paint or body work necessary on that. So there's the options. Let me know what you guys think in the comments and what options you like. But let's shift gears and look at a couple of updates. So the 69 Cornet. This, since I got home from No Name Nationals, has been fighting me a little bit for whatever reason. So when we got home from No Name Nationals, I took the 800 AVS2 carburetor that was on the Super Bee off and put it on this, because this had just a stock 600 CFM Carter on it. So that's kind of helped it run a little better. It still isn't running 100%. I'm not sure why that is. And it developed a tick. So I dropped the oil out of it. Seemed good, seemed a little thin, seemed a little bit gassy. So I changed it. I put 5 quarts of Valvoline VR1 20W50. So a little thicker oil and good zinc quality there. And I changed to a new filter as well. Fired it up, the tick went away. And it seems to be running a little better now. So I drove it down the road, got half a mile away from the house, and it just shut off. So I was like, well, what the heck's going on here? And I'm looking everywhere. I'm like, you know what? I lost power to the key. I lost power to, you know, cranking it over. I could crank it over under the hood, but it wouldn't start. So I figured, well, what the heck is going on here? So got it drugged back home, and I thought that I found a blown fuse, which I did find a blown fuse, but that was a unrelated thing. But sat, then I replaced the fuse, then I started it, and it started just fine. So I thought that it was the fuse. It's not. Drove it down the road again, maybe 3/4 of a mile this time, and it shut off again. And lost all power to the key, and I was like, well, why is it doing this? And then I brought it back, and I figured, okay, well, let's do some research, talk to a couple people I knew, and the coil was bad. So that wasn't good. So I replaced the coil. That cost, you know, $35, no big deal. And goes down the road just fine now. The only problem is it has a 4-speed in it, and that's never been an issue. But now, every once in a while, I'm going down the road, I, you know, go first, second, third, and it'll pop out of third gear sometimes. So I don't really know what that's about. But if I'm driving along, you know, 40 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour, third gear, sometimes it'll just pop out of gear, and it's like, well, what the heck is going on with that? So I don't know what that's all about. That's a transmission issue. And the car feels good overall. That 800 definitely helped it pick up a little bit, but it still doesn't feel good above 4,000 RPM. Above 4,000 RPM, the only way I could describe it is it feels kind of floaty. It feels like it just stops making power, which is not normal for a 440. Typically, you know, the peak power on a 440 is in the 5,000 RPM range. So at 4,000, it should be making good power and climbing. But it just, I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's just worn out. But yeah, that's what I got going on here. It's drivable. Just gotta be careful in third gear. I mean, it drives in third gear just fine. Every once in a while, it just pops out though, which is concerning. So I don't know what the deal is with that. I'm gonna have to do some research, but we'll get back to this at a later date. Hopefully get a little bit of use out of it before it gets cold here in the winter. So anyways, that's the project update on the Cornet. So that's what that is. That's how that's looking. And let's take a quick look at the Super Bee here before we wrap things up. And I will say, as I've shown that I took the 800 AVS2 off of the Super Bee, that means that something else went on it. And I will show you exactly what that something else is. I have installed an 830 CFM Holly, and it has the nice fancy annular boosters, and it runs incredible. I have a leak out of the front needle and seat a little bit, so I might have to take that off and put a new gasket on, retighten it. Might have to clean the gasket surface, I don't know. But this thing is very, very happy, very snappy right off idle. Starts great, so that's what the deal is with that. An update on the fuel starvation issue that it was having. What I ended up doing is I took the fuel line off, the hard line that runs from the pump to the tank. I took that off, blew through it, and it was kind of clogged, and it blew a bunch of rust out of it. So that was obviously a very large part of the problem. So unfortunate, but it is what it is. I ended up replacing it with a 3/8 line, which is what they used on Hemi cars, so extra fuel flow and capacity there, so that's good. Overall, it was an upgrade. It was a little more work, but it runs great now, no issues. You know, you can run up to 3,000-4,000 RPM without it cutting out or popping. So I just need to tighten up that that leak in the front, check a couple of things out, and it's ready to drive, ready to test, and ready to do a whole lot better than it did at No Name. So looking forward to all that and getting some use out of it before it gets cold here. Same as the Cornet. So I got this AN fuel line from Amazon, so I probably shouldn't have done that, but it works good, it doesn't leak. But that fuel pressure gauge does absolutely nothing. So I don't know why, but yeah, that fuel pressure gauge does not go up, does not work, or something. Obviously I'm getting fuel pressure because it's running great and it's running even higher RPMs without stumbling or any issues. So faulty gauge out of the box or what, I'm not sure. So I do have just rubber line on there for now. Obviously, as far as driving it long distances, getting it hot, you don't want a bunch of rubber line under there, and that will be changed. But for now, that's what I have, that's what works, and that's just what we're gonna go with. So that's the update here. Not much else going on, but yeah, definitely let me know what you guys think of the Super Bee, of the Cornet, and which of the projects that I showed you guys do you guys want to see on the channel next. So definitely consider like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.